Tom Rivers stood by the coffee maker, listening to the sounds of his wife getting ready upstairs. Drawers opening, hangers clinking, the faint rhythm of her heels on the hardwood floor. He already knew where she was going. Her best friend Laura's bachelorette weekend. A rented lake house just outside the city. One night, a handful of girlfriends. Music. Champagne. That's what she said. But something inside him resisted. That quiet voice under the skin, whispering that this was a bad idea. "Are you sure you need to go?" he asked when Claire walked into the kitchen, fastening a silver bracelet on her wrist. She looked stunning. A light summer dress, soft waves in her hair, a bit of shine on her lips. Too stunning for what she called a girls' night. "Tom, please." She sighed, pouring herself coffee. "It's just Laura's bachelorette. She's getting married next week, and I see not skip it. We have not had a weekend together in forever." He folded his arms, trying to sound calm. "Could not you just do a dinner downtown? Why rent a house out in the middle of nowhere? I know how these things go. Champagne, dancing shots." She slammed the cup down on the counter. "Oh my God, Tom, not this again. What things? You think I am going to hook up with someone? You really believe that about me?" He held her gaze, steady and cold. "I do not think you are that kind of person. I just know how alcohol turns everything into chaos. And yeah, I'd rather you to not get drunk." "I'm not a child," she snapped. "And yes, I'll have a glass of champagne. It's a celebration, not a courtroom." Tom rubbed his forehead, exhaling through his nose. He hated these talks, the ones that made them sound like strangers. There was a time when trust between them was effortless. But lately, something had shifted. She'd grown distant, irritable, avoiding eye contact, like she was tired of being seen. "At least text me once in a while, okay?" he said quietly. "Just so I know you're fine." "Fine," she said curtly. "I'll text. Promise." That word, promise, landed flat, like a phrase she practiced without meaning it. She grabbed her purse, keys, phone. Tom stood by the door, watching her go. For a second, he wanted to stop her, to say that something felt wrong, that it was not just jealousy, but the dread of losing something precious and irreplaceable. "Be careful," he said instead. "I will," she smiled. "Do not worry. Everything is going to be fine." The door closed behind her. Silence filled the house. The coffee on the stove had gone cold. The ticking of the clock seemed louder than usual. Tom walked to the window and watched her car disappear down the street. That uneasy feeling in his chest twisted tighter, a mix of jealousy, fear, and a strange sense of finality. He tried to shake it off, turned on the TV, went to the garage, tried fixing an old toolbox. But everything felt hollow. He kept checking his phone. No messages, no pictures, no made it safe. An hour passed, then two. Finally, her text came. "Sorry, just got here. Everything's fine. Love you." He read it twice, stared at it like there was something hidden between the lines. His gut told him the truth he did not want to admit. Not everything was fine. He set the phone down, trying to ignore the growing tension in his chest. But the silence in the house only made it worse. And somewhere miles away, at that same moment, on a sunlit terrace by the lake, Claire popped open a bottle of champagne with her friends, laughing, carefree, taking the first sip. She did not know yet that this would be the last night she could look her husband in the eyes without fear. The drive to the lake took just over an hour. Claire was packed in the car with 3 friends. Laura, the bride-to-be, loud and unstoppable. Maddie, twice divorced and proud of it. And quiet little Ashley, who blushed every time someone made a dirty joke. Music blasted from the speakers. The girls laughed, snapped selfies, and gossiped about the upcoming wedding. Claire laughed along, but her smile never quite reached her eyes. The argument with Tom still played on repeat in her mind, his quiet voice, that look that was not anger, but something colder. "Claire, what's with the funeral face?" Laura yelled from the back seat. "You re off the clock, girl. Forget about Mr. Control Freak. Tonight's all about us." The others cheered. Claire forced a laugh. She knew better than to defend Tom. The second she said his name, they'd start lectures about freedom, trust issues, and needing space. She just did not want to be the buzzkill. By the time they reached the lake house, the sky had turned orange. The place was stunning. Floor to ceiling windows, a massive deck over the water, lights already strung along the railings. Inside, everything sparkled, snacks on the table, bottles chilling in buckets, the bass from the speaker already vibrating the floor. To freedom before marriage, Maddie shouted, popping a cork. And to remembering who we are, even after we get married, Laura added, raising her glass toward Claire. Claire threw hers back in one gulp. Warmth spread through her body. Another glass followed, and the tension started to fade. The laughter got louder, the jokes sharper. Someone pulled out a deck of truth or dare cards. Another started a playlist labeled Girls Gone Wild, literally. At first, it was harmless fun. Claire relaxed, joined in the jokes, even shared a few stories from college that made them howl. Everything was easy until the kitchen door opened, and they walked in. Two men, young, fit, confident, the kind of guys who walked into a room like they owned the air in it. Surprise from the bride. Maddie yelled, Laura, do not you dare hide. This is for you. The music kicked up a notch. One of the guys turned on a portable light, and suddenly their shirts were gone, their skin glistening under the golden glow. The show had begun. The girls screamed, cheered, filmed on their phones. Claire tried to stay in the background, swirling her drink, pretending it was not awkward. Then one of the dancers, tall, tan, with a dark stubble and that dangerously confident smile, caught her gaze. His name tag, probably a joke, said Chase. And Chase knew exactly how to move, how to make every motion feel like it was meant for her and her alone. Claire looked away, but the girls had already noticed. Oh, looks like someone else got a fan. Maddie yelled. Claire, come on. Let loose for once. Stop it, Claire said, laughing nervously, her face burning. But Chase stepped closer. His hand brushed her shoulder. Light, casual, but enough to make her flinch. The music slowed. He started dancing in front of her. Close, then pulling back, then close again. It was not obscene, but it was not innocent either. It felt like a game that was suddenly about more than fun. The girls clapped, hooped, filmed. Claire laughed, but her pulse was racing. The champagne blurred her thoughts, and those clear lines, right, wrong, loyal, reckless, started to dissolve. When the song ended, Chase leaned in, close enough for her to feel his breath. You got beautiful eyes, he said. Eyes like that should not look sad. She froze, heart pounding. It's just part of the act, she whispered, half smiling. Maybe, he said, voice low, but not everything that starts as an act ends as one. He walked away, blending back into the noise and light. But Claire could not shake it. The words, the tone, the look. Minutes later, he was beside her again, offering another glass of champagne. She did not refuse. One glass, then another, then another. The laughter grew louder, the night heavier. Her guilt faded somewhere between the beats of the music. By the time the party slowed down and the others drifted off to their rooms, Claire stepped out onto the deck for air. The lake was still. The sky, full of stars. Say not sleep? A voice asked behind her. She turned. It was Chase, still shirtless, the same half grin, the same look that made her chest tighten. He came closer, resting his arms on the railing beside hers. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then the silence changed. It was not awkward anymore. It was electric. And from that moment on, the night stopped feeling harmless. It started to feel dangerous. The music had been pounding for over an hour without a break. The air inside the lake house had turned thick, a mix of perfume, sweat, and champagne. Laughter melted into bass lines, and Claire felt herself sinking beneath it all, like slipping under warm water. Everything that had seemed important that morning, Tana's quiet warnings, her own promises, had vanished in the haze of alcohol and noise. She stepped out onto the terrace, breathing in the cool air. The reflection of the string lights rippled across the dark lake like liquid fire. For a few moments, she felt almost calm, until Laura burst outside, phone in hand, half drunk and glowing. Claire, what are you doing out here? Chase is asking where you disappeared to. Tell him to ask someone else, Claire said with a small, practiced smile. Oh, come on. Laura grinned, stumbling closer. You re not fooling anyone. Their essay sparked between you two, Do not act like you do not feel it. Claire rolled her eyes, but the words stuck somewhere deep inside. A spark. She hated that it sounded true. When she walked back into the house, it felt like stepping into another world. The lights had dimmed, the laughter had softened, the music had slowed into something low and heavy. The dancers were back, but the energy was different, quieter, charged. It was not a performance anymore. It was personal. Chase stood in the middle of the room. His dark eyes scanned the crowd until they locked on her. He extended a hand. "No, I should not," Claire murmured, but before she could step back, the girls behind her started chanting. "Go, Claire. It's just a dance." Maddie shouted, "Just a dance." That phrase hit her like a dare. She hesitated, then took his hand. The room darkened further. A slow, rhythmic track filled the silence, the kind of song that feels like a heartbeat. Chase moved closer, so close she could feel the warmth of his breath, but his hands did not touch her. Not yet. They moved around her, through the air, like he was tracing the shape of her without crossing the line. At first she laughed, embarrassed, unsure of what to do. But the music worked its way under her skin. His movements were smooth, deliberate, every step meant to draw her in. He leaned in, voice a whisper just above the pulse of the bass. "You read too beautiful to hide." Her breath caught. "Do you say that to everyone?" she asked, trying to sound amused. "Only to the ones who listen with their heart," he said softly, his smile fading into something more serious. Around them, the girls were clapping, cheering, recording on their phones. But all that blurred. The only thing that existed now was the slow rhythm, the dim light, and the man standing inches away from her. The alcohol dulled the noise in her head, blurring the edges of guilt. When his fingertips finally brushed against her hand, barely a touch, a shiver ran up her spine. He led her closer to the center of the room, his gaze steady, unflinching. Her body followed his movements without thought. Her back arched slightly, her breath quickened. The flirty game had turned into something else entirely. Chase was not pretending anymore, and Claire was not either. His eyes did not see the loyal wife, the reliable woman who always did the right thing. They saw the part of her that wanted to feel alive again. When the song ended, he did not let go. The room swirled in a blur of laughter, camera flashes, and clinking glasses. He leaned close to her ear. "Let us get out of here." "Where?" she whispered. "Just outside. For a minute." She wanted to say no. She really did. But the word never came. The air felt heavy, her thoughts tangled. All that warmth inside her, it was not just from the champagne anymore. He took her hand. Chase led her down a narrow hallway. The music faded behind them, muffled by the walls. Somewhere, someone called her name, but she did not answer. A half-open bedroom door waited at the end. He stopped, turned to her. No words, just a question in his eyes. She hesitated only a moment. Then she stepped forward. The door closed behind them. At first, there was silence, then quickened breathing, the rustle of fabric, a nervous laugh that melted into quiet. No words, no explanations. Only instinct. Only that dangerous second when reason finally gives up. She knew it was wrong. Knew she could stop, right now, and nothing would be lost. But she did not. She could not. And in that moment, somewhere far away, the life she built began to fall apart. Quietly, invisibly, with every heartbeat. Morning crept into the lake house smelling of coffee, cheap perfume, and shame. Claire did not wake up right away. Her head was pounding. Her eyes burned from the sunlight cutting through the blinds. The sheets were unfamiliar. The room was not her own. For a split second, she could not place where she was until she heard the slow, steady breathing beside her. She turned her head. Chase, asleep, dead. One arm wrapped lazily around a pillow, lips curved in a faint, boyish smile, like it had all just been part of the night's fun. For him, maybe it was. For her, it was the start of a nightmare. Claire sat up fast, clutching the blanket to her chest. Memories came back in disjointed flashes, fragments of sound, touch, motion, like scenes from a movie she never agreed to star in. Music, whispers, his hand sliding down her back, her fingers gripping the sheets like they were the edge of sanity. His breath at her neck, low, steady, hypnotic. She remembered wanting to stop. She even remembered saying no, quiet, almost swallowed between gasps. But the word dissolved somewhere between the rhythm, the warmth of his skin, and that dizzying sense that the world had shrunk to just the two of them. He was not rough. He was not cruel. He was just certain, every movement deliberate, slow, patient, like he already knew what she would not resist. And when she finally stopped fighting her own thoughts, it ended, not in passion, but in something quieter, a bitter, fragile surrender. Now, staring at him in the pale morning light, a chill crept through her body. Not disgust, just realization. She decrossed the line, and there was no way back. Claire stood, pulling on her clothes in silence. The mirror on the dresser caught her reflection, hair tangled, lipstick smudged, eyes empty. She hated what she saw. "You leaving already?" His voice came from behind her, sleepy but amused. She turned. This was a mistake. He propped himself up on an elbow, giving her that same confident half-smile. Was it a mistake? Or just something you wanted? "It does not matter," she said flatly. "It did not happen." He shrugged, unconcerned. "Whatever you say." She did not answer, just walked out. The house was waking up. Laughter and clinking mugs echoed down the hallway. Laura stood in the kitchen in a robe, holding her phone and a steaming cup of coffee. "Where do you disappear to last night?" she asked, squinting suspiciously. "Went to bed early," Claire lied, keeping her eyes on the floor. Laura smirked. "Sure you did. Must thee been tough falling asleep after all those stories." Claire froze. "What stories?" "Oh, relax." Laura waved it off. The girls were recording everything. The games, the dancing, your little moment with Chase. Total fire. "Do not worry. I LL trim it before it hits the group chat." Claire's stomach dropped. "Who filmed it?" she asked quietly. Maddie, I think. Or maybe Ashley." Everyone was snapping something. Claire nodded, but her pulse was pounding in her ears. Images flickered through her head, his hand pulling her closer, the door closing, the shadows moving behind it. What if someone had filmed that? She sank onto the couch, the room spinning around her. Laura was still talking. Something about breakfast, about the drive home, but the words faded into static. All Claire could hear was her own heartbeat. All she could see was the possibility that one stupid, drunken night was not just a secret anymore. It could be proof. And if anyone saw it, if Tom ever saw it, everything would be over. 2 days passed. Claire moved through them like a ghost, brewing coffee she did not drink, wiping the same spot on the counter, smiling weakly when Tom came home. He did not ask questions, but something in his silence had changed. The air around him felt colder, heavier, a quiet distance that said more than any argument ever could. She tried not to think about that night, but her mind would not let go. The heat of skin, the whisper against her neck, the sound of fabric sliding, the breath between words. It all came back in fragments, like flashes she could not shut off. Tom sat at the dining table that evening, scrolling through his phone, when a new message appeared. Unknown number. No text. Just a video file. He tapped it. At first, noise. Laughter. Music. The shimmer of lights. Women cheering. Applause. Then, a familiar figure. A white dress. Loose hair. Claire. For a second, he thought it was harmless. A clip from the party. But the video went on. The camera zoomed closer. His chest tightened. Claire again. Her eyes half closed. Lips parted. Her hand resting on another man's shoulder. A dance. Then a darker frame. Movement. Shadows. His hand on her back. And in that silence between songs, everything became painfully clear. Tom placed the phone on the table and stared at it. 1 minute. 2. 10. Each image replayed in his head, crisp and merciless. Not obscene, not graphic, but enough. He did not need to see more. Her body said what her words never would. He stood up, walked to the window. The neighborhood looked calm, the same perfect lawns, the flag across the street swaying in the wind. For a moment, he tried to convince himself it was not real. But when he turned back, the phone was still there. The video still playing. It was real and final. When Claire came home, Tom was sitting in the same spot. No expression, no anger, just the kind of stillness that makes the air feel dangerous. "Hey," she said lightly, setting her bag down. "I grabbed something for dinner." He did not answer. Just press play and placed the phone on the table in front of her. "What is this?" she asked, confused. He did not respond. The room filled with the sound of laughter and clapping from the video. Her face drained of color. "Tom, please." He said nothing. "It was stupid," she stammered. "Just alcohol, a joke. I did not mean stop." His voice was quiet, almost calm, but it cut like glass. "I do not want excuses. I just want to know, was it you?" She covered her face with her hands. "Yes, but it was not supposed to happen." He pushed the chair back, so suddenly that it slammed into the wall. "Not supposed to happen?" His voice cracked, not from rage, but from something deeper. "Claire, you have no idea what you just did." She stepped closer, tried to reach for him. He pulled away. "Tom, please," she whispered. "It was a mistake. A stupid, drunk mistake. I was not thinking." "Exactly," he said coldly. "You were not thinking. And now it is too late." He walked past her, opened a cabinet, grabbed a bottle of water just to keep his hands busy. "I watched that video 3 times," he said. "I wanted to find some angle that made sense, some reason to believe it was not what it looked like. But it is." She dropped to her knees beside him, tears streaming. "I love you," she whispered. It did not mean anything. He looked down at her, finally meeting her eyes. "You're wrong," he said quietly. "It means everything." She reached for his hands, kissed his fingers, begged through tears. "Tom, please." "It was one night. It is not who I am." He stared at her, his jaw tight. "I do not know who you are anymore." He turned, grabbed his jacket from the hook by the door. "Where are you going?" she cried. "Out," he said. "Before I say something I see not take back." The door closed hard behind him. The silence that followed was unbearable. The house felt bigger, emptier. She stood there for a long time before sinking onto the couch. The phone still lay on the table, screen dark, reflecting her own broken face back at her. He had not come home that night, or the next. And somewhere on that same phone, still blinking in the corner of the screen, was the message that started it all. No name, no words, just a video. Claire sat by the window, her knees pulled tight to her chest, listening to the sounds coming from the next room. The zip of a suitcase, the dull thud of a drawer closing. Every sound cut straight through her chest like a heartbeat she could not silence. "Tom, please," she said softly, her voice shaking. "We could talk. We can fix this. I'll do anything. Counseling, honesty, whatever it takes. Just not like this." No answer. He appeared in the doorway, calm, composed, wearing jeans and a button-down. A suitcase in one hand, his eyes steady, his face unreadable. But beneath that silence was a quiet, burning anger. "There is nothing left to talk about," he said finally. "I've already seen everything I need to see. At least let me explain," she begged. "What I did was awful, I know that. But it does not mean we have to destroy everything." "Destroy?" He gave a dry, bitter laugh. "Claire, you already did." She took a step closer, as if the space between them could be crossed by sheer will. "I never meant to lose you. It happened so fast. I thought I could forget it." "And that is the problem," he said quietly. "You only thought about yourself. I thought about us." He set the suitcase down by the door and pulled a white envelope from the shelf. "Here, papers. It is done. Divorce." Her lips trembled. "You already filed?" "Yeah, early this morning." He said it like he was reciting a date or a flight number, flat, almost detached. Claire covered her face with her hands. The sobs came in waves, heavy and raw. "Tom, you see, not just walk away. 10 years, our home, everything we built, all that love not just disappear." He nodded once. "It did not disappear. It died. You killed it." She lunged forward, grabbing his arm. "Please do not leave like this. Yell at me, hate me, throw something, just do not leave without a word." He looked at her for a long time, eyes dark, distant. "I do not want to yell," he said quietly. "People only yell when there is still hope. I do not have any left." He lifted the suitcase and started toward the door. "Tom," she cried, her voice breaking as she ran after him. He stopped on the threshold and turned one last time. "From this moment on, we redone," he said, calm and final. "Do not call. Do not text. Do not try to fix what has already gone." And then he walked out. The door shut behind him, and silence filled the house, thick, echoing, unbearable. Claire stood there frozen. Then she collapsed onto the floor, burying her face in the carpet, her sobs shaking through the emptiness. It was not fear or loneliness she felt. It was the weight of knowing she'd done this to herself. A soft vibration broke the quiet. The phone on the table lit up. She reached for it with trembling fingers. The screen flickered to life, that same video. The one that started all. She hit play. Laughter. Lights. Herself, smiling, careless, in someone else's arms. It lasted less than a minute, but in those few seconds, her entire life had unraveled. She stared at her own face, at the stranger she saw there. Not a woman who made a mistake, a woman who burned her own future. Tears blurred the screen as the video ended. She dropped the phone and pressed her hands to her face. That was the moment she truly understood. It was over. Not because Tom had left, but because there was nothing left to save. Love does not come back to the place it was betrayed. Days passed. The house remained the same, yet everything inside it felt hollow. His coffee mug still on the counter. His toothbrush still in the holder. It looked like he might walk in any minute, but he never would. Even the air had changed. The scent of the home, once warm, now felt sharp, sterile, like the cold calm after a storm. Claire sat by the window again, watching cars pass, hearing distant laughter outside. Life went on, just not hers. She unlocked her phone, opened her last text to him, the one he read but never answered. "I love you." No reply. She closed her eyes, and it finally hit her. One careless dance, one moment of weakness, had wiped out 10 years of love. She lost her husband, his trust, herself. And it all began with a phrase that once sounded harmless. It's just a dance. Now it was the dance that ended everything. And that's where today's story ends. Thank you for watching to the end. If you enjoyed it, do not forget to like and comment. We'd love to discuss this story with you. See you in the next video.